Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Let's be clear, Trump's tariffs on Canada are wrong, unjustified, and attack on our workers and our economy. Now, while other countries have got deals to lower their tariffs, not only has the PM failed to do that, but he's got Canada's tariffs doubled on steel and aluminum. He promised he was the man with the plan. He can't even get a deal. Our workers are terrified about losing their jobs, and he promised that he'd collect $20 billion in retaliatory tariffs, but then secretly drop those tariffs to zero during the campaign. If he's so sure that he's still going to collect $20 billion, why not table a budget and prove it to Canadians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the American tariffs, the new tariffs on steel and aluminum, are unlawful, unjustified, and illogical. I agree with the member. And that is why, one of the reasons why we have retaliatory tariffs on over $90 billion worth of U.S. goods. We are in intensive negotiations with the Americans and in parallel preparing reprisals if those negotiations do not succeed.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, one way to deal with the Americans is from a position of strength. But now the Prime Minister is saying that he won't even approve a new pipeline unless there is consensus. This is already unraveling. The radical BC Premier says no pipeline through his province. And there's not even consensus in the Liberal cabinet, with top ministers committed to killing oil and gas projects. The vast majority of Canadians don't want to give a veto to politicians. They want to be less dependent on the Americans and to earn more powerful paychecks from selling our oil and gas around the world. Will the Prime Minister show some leadership and commit to approving a pipeline today?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians from Shawinigan to Saskatoon and the premiers and Prime Minister that represent them have agreed on the importance of building projects of national interest.
Right.
The consensus that's required includes a consensus with Indigenous peoples, something that the members opposite do not have. We will stand with Indigenous Canadians. We will build pipelines, energy infrastructure in the future of this great country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
If photo ops and phony rhetoric actually got things done in this country, then Justin Trudeau would still be Prime Minister. But in all seriousness, the Liberals' $500 billion in new spending without a budget will make inflation worse. The PM said that he wants to be judged by prices at the grocery store. So let's look at those prices. The verdict is in. Beef up 34%, apples up 18%, coffee up 9%. Will the Prime Minister listen to Parliament and table a budget that controls spending, lowers taxes, and cuts inflation so Canadians can afford to put food on the table?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased for the first time to hear the members opposite talk about lowering taxes.
That's right.
In front of this House. First time in my hearing. First time in my hearing, Mr. Speaker. Before the House is a tax cut for 22 million Canadians up to $840. They want their support.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Lévis. This House requires a budget from this Liberal government. They approved $500 million in new inflationary spending without tabling a budget. They have broken their promise to limit spending and have increased it by 8%. Meanwhile, missed mortgage payments are hitting record highs, and food banks are increasingly overwhelmed. Can the Liberals respect this House motion and table a budget right now? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the bill that is before this House is one that will reduce taxes for the middle class. For 22 million Canadians, they need to support it. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Lévis. Prices have skyrocketed. Beef tenderloin is up 34%, origins up 26%, rice up 14%, and even infant formula is up 9%. And after 10 years under these Liberals, families are eating less and less well and are increasingly turning to food banks. And now the Liberals want to spend another $500 million with no budget or plan. Do they realize, well, they need to table a budget to reduce inflation and lower taxes so Canadians can finally put food on the table? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what is before this House is an increase in transfers for health of 5%. Spending for supporting seniors, we have to vote for this. And a tax cut and a GST cut for new homes as well. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was elected by promising that he would stand up to President Trump. And then he said he was the man with a plan for this trade wall. Yet, aluminum, an important sector for Saguenay, has been hit by unjustified tariffs of 50%. And we know the Liberals. They say one thing, but they can't deliver the goods. Mr. Speaker, was the Prime Minister's entire election campaign just a political spectacle? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the U.S. tariffs are illegal and unjustified. They're absolutely illogical, clearly. We are in negotiations, intense negotiations with the Americans, and at the same time, we are preparing our reprisals with respect to aluminum. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, since this government was elected, has dreamed of a bill for big national projects. But in the meantime, what we stopped talking about since the election was the fact that President Trump was doubling tariffs on aluminum and on steel, threatening thousands of jobs. What will this government do? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we need to do several things at the same time. First, we have to build our economy, build it with legislation with just one Canadian economy instead of 13. We have to build it with national projects, and we have to negotiate with the Americans. And these negotiations are at a very delicate moment right now, but we are going to win just like the Oilers, Edmonton Oilers will. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Yesterday, his ministers said what their agenda was when they were asked questions, but the government was elected because there was a crisis. The Prime Minister even said he wouldn't be here if there was no crisis. So we have to negotiate with the Americans, yes, but we also have to immediately provide support to companies in the steel and aluminum sector. What are you doing? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to remind the member that he has to ask his question through the chair. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I've just said, we have to do several things at the same time. We are doing negotiations with the Americans, yes, of course, but at the same time, we're providing support for companies in the steel, aluminum sector with funding and support for workers and several other types of support with public supply, like the minister mentioned yesterday. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, these industrial sectors in question who we've spoken to have not heard of any support in any way. Yet we have put forward a wage subsidy bill inspired from what we had during the pandemic. So employers are very concerned right now, and they don't want to lose expertise they have. And we're talking about dozens and thousands of jobs that are at stake. Is the Prime Minister ready to rapidly establish a wage subsidy program for companies? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have already strengthened employment insurance, and we have made a commitment to give all of the money raised from counter tariffs to the workers and the companies most affected by these unjustified and illegal U.S. tariffs.
The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
Trump's 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum are wrong and an unjustified attack on our Canadian economy. This means that manufacturers in Middlesex, London are cutting shifts, delaying investment, and relocating to the U.S. These tariffs are a direct threat to Canadian jobs and our economic sovereignty. He promised Canadians he would defend us. He said he had a plan. But in responding to the U.S., this Prime Minister's elbows have gone limp. So I asked the Prime Minister, was the entire Liberal campaign just theatre?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Speaker, I would agree with the colleague. It's wrong. It's very wrong. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, we had one of our colleagues in Washington yesterday to fight for Canadians, to fight for our workers, to fight for our industry. This is not theater. This is action, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we know what makes a difference is to fight, to protect our workers, to protect our industry, and to build this Canada with Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian workers. Mr. Speaker, we're going to build Canada strong together.
The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
Canadians don't need more photo ops. They need somebody to fight for them and actually get results. During the campaign, Trump actually endorsed the Liberal Prime Minister, and it's no wonder why. The Prime Minister said his government would collect $20 billion from U.S. tariffs. That was his big talking point. But when the pressure came, he went to his friend Trump and quietly dropped all those tariffs, leaving our steel and aluminum workers blindsided and betrayed. So, Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals listen to Parliament, be transparent, and table a budget so that Canadians can see how much, if anything, was ever collected from the so-called elbows-up tariffs?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, instead of talking down Canada, she should be elbow up with us, Mr. Speaker. This is about making sure that as a chamber, this House should stand united, Mr. Speaker. This is about our nation. We're fighting a trade war. Everyone in this House have a responsibility to fight for Canadian workers, fight for Canadian industry, to build Canada strong. Mr. Speaker, we get it on this side of the House. I hope on the other side they get it because Canadians get it at home.
Honourable member for Niagara South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister promised that it would be nothing but elbows up during the election campaign. Then he paused our counter tariffs and said he didn't think the U.S. would impose any more. Now the tariffs have only gotten worse. Canadian steel now faces 50% tariff threat from President Trump. Algoma Steel is warning that its U.S. business may become unviable. Thousands of jobs, including many in my riding of Hamilton and Niagara area, are at risk. If the Prime Minister has gone soft, what was the entire Liberal campaign based on? Just theatre?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
The members' riding are extremely important, and I look forward to working with him to make sure that they're saved and protected. And we should all be working together as people across the country are looking at this government and these politicians, because this trade war that was launched against Canada is existential, and it is putting livelihoods of thousands of Canadians at risk. So that's why we have a plan. We will fight, we will protect, and we will build, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, Trump's tariffs are unjustified to our Canadian workers. The Prime Minister said during his election campaign that he would collect $20 billion from the U.S., but he secretly abandoned these tariffs. And this morning it was a brutal wake-up call. Aluminum and steel workers and their families are extremely worried. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister look at workers and their families and tell them how much money they have actually received in tariffs and how much they can get? The Honourable Minister of Finance. It would be a great pleasure to look at people in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean because I was there often, because people there know there will always be there for aluminum workers. Mr. Speaker, like the Prime Minister has said, all of the funds raised from these retaliatory tariffs will be given to these workers, and this money will be reinvested to help our workers. People in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean know that we'll be there for them. We were there last year, and we'll be there today and tomorrow as well.
Member for Thornhill.
Canadians will hold account by their experiences at the grocery store. Those are the words of the Prime Minister. So let's see what the new stats say about his performance. Since the start of 2025, the price of rice has gone up 14%, the price of potatoes 13%, the price of infant formula 9%, and beef a whopping 33% up. By that measure, he's failing miserably. The Prime Minister claimed that he had a plan for inflation, but all Canadians got was another $500 billion of spending with no budget. So where is it?
The
Honourable Minister of Finance. The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Mr. Speaker, and we have reduced the use of consultants to answer the first part of our questions, and we are working on a strong mandate to make government more efficient so that we can deliver more for Canadians, which is exactly what we're doing with a tax cut, Mr. Speaker, for 22 million Canadians. I'm hoping Conservatives can rally behind this very common sense idea. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
When mothers go grocery shopping, it's about their kids. They would rather go hungry than see them go without. In Newmarket, I met a mother of 3 little boys in tears. She didn't know what she was going to feed them the following week. And who can blame her? 2 bags of groceries now cost $100 and barely last 2 days. The Liberals' inflation is the slow undoing of a family's dignity. Yet the Liberals plan to continue their inflationary spending. Will they present a budget this spring and reduce spending, or will they continue to ask parents to pay for their broken promises?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, nobody should go hungry in this country, and that's why we've taken extraordinary measures to support families, just like the member's constituents that she spoke about. Since 2015, Mr. Speaker, child poverty is down by 38%. We've got a ways to go, but we've got to continue working together to get the full benefits of this work.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot-Acton. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers were repeatedly told during the elections to vote Liberal because their leader had super negotiating powers that would neutralize Trump. Now, we've seen how that worked out today. Yes, applaud. Trump has doubled tariffs on aluminum and steel. The Bloc has said it before. We need to provide funds to these industries and redistribute the counter-tariff funds to them. We also have to prepare in advance a wage subsidy in the event of layoffs. Aluminum and steel have been subject to tariffs for 3 months, and now they've just doubled. Will Audley finally announce support? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, I spoke with the managers of Rio Tinto and Alouette, amongst others, yesterday evening, and we are here to support our aluminum sector companies. The Minister of Finance has also had many conversations, and we know how important aluminum is for Quebec. We know how important the workers in this industry are fundamental, and that is why I spoke to Mégane Picard earlier today from the FTQ, and I was also in contact with Unifor and Metalo, and we're continuing our work. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot, Acton. Mr. Speaker, we don't want to know with who the minister had dinner yesterday. We want to know what she's doing today. Aluminum and steel have been subject to tariffs for 3 months, and for 3 months, Ottawa has offered nothing to help them. The PM's negotiations have yielded nothing, and the tariffs have even doubled. So today, they need cash and a wage subsidy to guarantee that Quebecers won't be laid off. What is Ottawa waiting for to support our industries and protect our workers? The Honourable Minister of Canada-US Trade. Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, our government even acted before the election to support workers across Canada, the ones that were affected by these illegal and unjust tariffs imposed by the United States. The Prime Minister has clearly said we are negotiating a new safety and economic agreement with the United States, and we have a mandate to protect our industries and to protect our workers, and that's exactly what our government is doing.
For Lethbridge.
The Prime Minister said there would only be pipelines if there was consensus. As it turns out, BC's Premier has said no. Several Liberal MPs are opposed, and even within the Prime Minister's own head there seems to be opposition, because on the one hand he says, yes, we're going to go ahead and become the energy superpower, and on the other hand he says, no, oil needs to stay in the ground. The Prime Minister clearly has no plan to get things done, so why is he putting his elbows down and making us beholden to the United States of America?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, what we saw on Monday were 13 provinces and territories working together to build the strongest economy in the G7. The premiers and the government are focused on building a strong Canadian economy. What we see from my colleagues across the floor are attempts to divide and to block development. I hope Conservatives will join with us in building a strong Canada.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Of non-answer that has become accustomed to these Liberals. Grand gestures, meetings and press conferences will not get things done, even though the Prime Minister seems to believe that's the case. But what would move things forward, of course, is a plan to scrap Bill C-69, the No New Pipelines Act, a plan to scrap Bill C-48, a plan to scrap the job-killing oil and gas cap that exists. The industrial carbon tax, let's get rid of that as well. Is the Prime Minister simply turning a blind eye to these things, or does he just not know how to get things done?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
If my honourable colleague was listening to what happened in Saskatoon, the premiers and the Prime Minister have a plan to fast-track projects, to get projects done within 2 years, and to build the strongest economy in the G7. Why don't you guys get on? Why don't my colleagues get on board?
The Honourable Member for Central Newfoundland.
Mr. Speaker, no consensus. That's reality this week on getting Western oil and gas to Tidewater. There is consensus in Newfoundland and Labrador today, where the VOCM poll shows 74% agree that the Liberal oil and gas cap is an investment killer. No pipelines are required to get Newfoundland and Labrador's 2.5 billion barrels of oil to world markets, or its 12.5 trillion cubic feet of gas to Tidewater. It's already there. So will the Prime Minister put his money where his mouth is and get rid of his investment-killing cap and bring prosperity back to the Atlantic Canadian oil and gas patch?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
We will build and protect our economy from American tariffs and win the trade war. But to find new markets for Canadian energy, emissions in every barrel of oil must be reduced. Serious investment in carbon capture must happen. We will build the strongest low-cost, low-risk, low-carbon economy in the G7.
The honourable member for Regina Louvain.
That sounds like a hard no to me. Saskatchewan people want to build pipelines. To secure and grow Canada's economy, we must develop a world-class energy sector. The anti-energy NDP Premier BC has stated there will be no new pipelines in BC. Anti-development extremists in the Prime Minister's cabinet have dedicated their careers to keeping Canadian oil and gas in the ground, like the Heritage Minister, like the Environment Minister. If this Prime Minister can't get consensus within his own cabinet, how will we ever get a pipeline built in our country?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Again, I would say they need to go, my honourable colleagues need to look at the tapes. The Premier of Saskatchewan was supportive. The Premier of Alberta was supportive. The representative from British Columbia was supportive. Why can't our colleagues get supportive and help us build the strongest economy in the G7?
The honourable member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
The Prime Minister and his energy ministers say there will be no pipelines without a consensus, but buzzwords don't build pipelines. How is consensus realistic when the BC's NDP Premier has already ruled out a new pipeline? There's currently no proponent for an eastern pipeline, and the Prime Minister himself calls for Canada to be an energy superpower one day, and the next day insists that half the other reserves need to stay in the ground. Half of the PM's own cabinet wanted to see Canada's oil industries die and spent the past decade trying to kill it. If the Prime Minister can't find consensus within his own cabinet, how does he plan to approve a pipeline?
Exactly.
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Again, we've answered this question. Premier Moe said it was the best meeting he has been to as a Premier, best First Minister's meeting. Premier Smith said it was we have an opportunity for a grand bargain. Why don't you help us get to the grand bargain?
I'll remind the Honourable Minister to go through the chair. The Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, last week my hometown of Vancouver hosted North America's first Web Summit, an event highlighted Canada's vibrant tech sector and its potential on the global stage. This conference brought together leading innovators and investors from around the world, underscoring the significant opportunities for growth in our AI ecosystem. Will the Minister of Artificial Intelligence share with this House how the government plans to solidify Canada's position as a global leader in tech and attract more investment and talent to our country?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Well, I thank my colleague for the question. Let me first also take this opportunity to thank the people of Toronto Centre for placing their trust in me as their MP. I also want to thank my volunteers and my family for their support. Monsieur le Président, we are very happy to support the Web Summit in Vancouver. It reinforces our commitment to keep Canada's world-class AI system and ecosystem strong, safe, and sovereign. Just last week, we saw 2 Canadian companies announce billions of dollars in new investments to build 8 new AI data centers from Kamloops to Rimouski. We are building the economy of the future right now.
There you go. The Honourable Member for Kenora, Kiewit-Tuning.
According to the Liberals' own report, nearly half of first-time home buyers feel that they're paying too much for their home, and 63% are concerned about the possibility of defaulting on their mortgage payments, Mr. Speaker, citing interest rates, the cost of living, and reduced income as reasons why. And this is the direct result of 10 years of this Liberal plan in action, Mr. Speaker, and it's why Canadians deserve to see a plan to fix it now. So on what date will the Liberals table a budget, including a plan for housing, so that Canadians can afford to have a roof over their heads?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, to the member opposite, you'll have an opportunity to support a GST cut for first-time home buyers that is in front of us right now. We look forward to your support on that and giving new home buyers $50,000 break on their purchases up to $1 million. We look forward to your support on that. and your support on the cut to income taxes for 22 million Canadians so they can afford housing more.
That's an excellent point.
Honourable member for Kenora Kiiwetinoong.
The minister wants to pretend that all is going well, but the facts from his own department show that first-time home buyers are struggling. 60% have difficulty maintaining their debt payments, Mr. Speaker. But that is not all. Recently, TD Bank has cast doubt on the Liberal promise to build more homes, stating that new home starts are actually going to decline next year, Mr. Speaker. Housing starts go down, the prices go up, and we have yet another failed Liberal promise. So I will ask again, on what date will we see a federal budget that includes a plan for housing so that Canadians can afford a home?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, our housing challenges have built up over several decades. Certainly the decade of inaction from the Conservative government. We are taking action. This new government in Canada is focused on delivering on housing, up to 500,000 housing starts. That's using every tool in the toolbox, starting with a break on GST, starting with the important moves that we're making to create Build Canada homes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
Mr. Speaker, the picture for first-time homebuyers is very grim right now. 63%, nearly two-thirds, fear they're going to default because of rising costs and rising interest rates that have happened on this Liberal government's watch. 26% are using debt and credit to pay off debt. Now, Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister may not know you have to pay off debt, but ordinary Canadians do. Canadians deserve a plan. Canadians deserve a budget that puts housing first. Now, this government needs to listen to Parliament, listen to Canadians, and deliver a budget so Canadians can put a roof on their head, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I think Canadians spoke loud and clear in electing members to this side of the House to deliver on housing.
Yeah, that's right.
This government, your new government, has put forward the most aggressive plan to build affordable housing that this country's ever seen, and it starts today with a break on GST for new home buyers.
Excellent. Yes, excellent.
Member for Edmonton Manning.
Mr. Speaker, TD Bank says the Prime Minister housing policy promises aren't enough for the federal government to reach its goal of 500,000 new units annually over the next decade. In fact, housing starts are expected to decline next year. His proposed new bureaucracy won't build any homes. There is too much red tape. Canadians deserve better. When will the government table a budget so Canadians can learn if they have any plan to put a roof over their head?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, we have a number of action steps in play right now, as I have answered repeatedly in this House, on a cut to the GST for new home buyers. We're going to take action as well on the income tax and reducing that for 22 million Canadians. These are affordability measures that are for right now. Build Canada Homes is on the way in to bring us a huge number of new affordable homes. And I hope the members opposite will support these efforts.
Great answer.
L'honorable député de Montmorency-Charlevoix.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Un récent...
The honourable member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Well, Mr. Speaker, a recent CMHC poll shows that 63% of new home buyers are concerned that they may default on their mortgage shortly, mostly because of the increase in the cost of living, the increase in mortgage rates, and the worsening of the economic situation. People in Montmorency, Charlevoix, and elsewhere in Canada are taking out debt in order to pay off other debts. So, Mr. Speaker, can we finally get a budget so that Canadians can actually budget for their own future? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Well, Mr. Speaker, there will indeed be a budget. But the first thing this government brought forward is an affordability plan. And people in Charlevoix are interested in that. Why? Because they know that there will be a tax cut. That's great news for people in Charlevoix. And there's more good news. For first-time home buyers of a new home, they will not be seeing any GST on this new home up to $1 million. These are concrete measures that will help people. Conservatives should be delighted that this Liberal government is helping people.
Member for Caribou, Prince George.
In my hometown of Williams Lake, with a population of 10,000, 6 prolific offenders commit 98% of the crime. When they're in jail, crime rate goes down. When they're out on the streets, crime rate goes up. Businesses can't even get the mandatory insurance anymore due to high rates of vandalism. On top of this, our communities are faced with an out-of-control overdose crisis. Last week, Williams Lake saw an average of 20 to 30 overdoses per day. If he's the man with a plan, will the Prime Minister rise today and tell us what his plan is to confront the overdose crisis, lock up repeat offenders, and make our communities safe?
That'd be nice. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our plan to keep communities safe will keep drugs, guns, and criminals off our streets. As the first bill that's to be debated tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, will be the Borders Bill, and we're expecting that the Conservative Party will support it in order for us to keep fentanyl off our streets, guns off our streets, make sure that illicit fundraising is curtailed, and to ensure that our communities are safer. If they want to put their action behind their talk, it is time for them to act and support this bill and get this through Parliament, Mr. Speaker.
Member for York Centre.
Last night in North Toronto, a man was shot to death and at least 5 others were wounded. 3 masked men opened gunfire steps away from the Yorkdale Mall. It's not clear if or how many bystanders were hit. The Liberal record on crime is no accident. Liberal Bills C5 and C75 put repeat criminals back on the streets, unleashing crime and chaos on the streets of Toronto. Gun crimes more than doubled under the Liberals. The solution is simple. Repeal soft-on-crime Liberal laws. When will the Liberals get serious about deadly shootings in Toronto and across Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'm deeply saddened by the news coming out of the City of Toronto this morning. The gun violence is unacceptable, and perpetrators must be brought to justice. We're partnering with police services across the country to fight organized crime and disrupt firearm smuggling and trafficking operations. The Strong Borders Act, introduced in this House yesterday, includes provisions to crack down on illegal firearms and organized crime. I look forward to working with the member opposite towards passing this important legislation, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to work tirelessly to support police across Canada.
The Honourable Member for Vernon Lake Country, Monashee.
Mr. Speaker, as a former City Councillor on the front lines of this emergency, I watched from 2015 to today as Liberal policies simply made the opioid crisis worse. Each new policy just makes things worse. Decriminalization isn't a case of not doing enough, it's a case of doing too much of the wrong thing. Conservatives are calling for life sentences for fentanyl kingpins committing mass murder. When will this Liberal government recognize that Canadians battling addictions are worth fighting for? When will it stop enabling harm and start supporting real recovery instead of palliative care?
Great question. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the fentanyl crisis has impacted communities across Canada and across North America. We're accelerating the work to crack down and dismantle the fentanyl trade and organized crime groups that profit from it. That's why we listed 7 cartels as terrorist entities under the criminal code. I'm working closely with Kevin Brasseur, Canada's fentanyl czar, at home and abroad to put a laser-sharp focus on dismantling fentanyl. We will put those profiting from this drug behind bars. Mr. Speaker, we expect the border bill, support for the border bill from my friend opposite and across the aisle. This is a very
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, last week in Cambridge, police arrested 2 individuals at the Galt bus terminal and seized 10 grams of suspected fentanyl, enough to cause up to 5,000 deaths. Police are doing their part, but this Liberal government's soft-on-crime policies are letting drug kingpins get away with mass murder. Conservatives are calling for life sentences for those convicted of trafficking more than 40 milligrams of fentanyl. When will this Liberal government treat fentanyl like the deadly weapon it is and make those who profit from it face real consequences?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
One of the first measures that this new government has taken is presenting a Stronger Borders Act. This is cracking down on fentanyl, auto theft, money laundering, illegal firearms, irregular migration, and organized crime. Mr. Speaker, we'll also make it tougher for violent criminals to get bail and impose stricter sentences on repeat offenders. We'll work until violent criminals are put behind bars. This government will do everything it takes to make Canadians safe.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, before my election, I had the privilege of being Canada's ambassador to the OECD, and I saw there that the rules-based international system creates outcomes for workers, improves affordability for consumers, and helps businesses to innovate and grow. The rest of the world needs what Canada has to offer. But the free trade system that we had counted on is now under threat. Recently, President Trump brought up tariffs on steel and aluminum to 50%. The Minister of Industry has told us that she's very engaged with businesses and unions. So I would like to ask the Minister to tell us about this.
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
The Honourable Minister of Industry. I'd like to thank my colleague for her important question and for her hard work in Thérèse de Blainville. It goes without saying that we are currently in a trade war. And we believe that these tariffs are completely unacceptable, illegal, and unjustified. That's why we're in solutions mode. And we will invest in major national projects that will create jobs throughout the country, including in steel and aluminum. We will also diversify our markets to ensure that Canadian steel and aluminum can be sold elsewhere in the world.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
The Prime Minister said that we should judge him by the prices at the grocery store. Well, beef prices, apples, rice, infant formula, so many things are all up in price. Well, do you know what else is up? It's food bank use. Now, Canadians have to budget, especially during hard times, and that's exactly what they expected from the self-described man with the plan. Canadians need to see a budget from this Liberal government so that they can see what the plan is to reverse 10 years of Liberal tax increases and the effects of their inflationary spending. When will we see a budget?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure my colleague will be happy because we're actually reducing tax for 22 million Canadians. I'm sure he's going to rejoice this evening because tomorrow or in the coming days he will have the opportunity to put his vote where his mouth is, Mr. Speaker, because he wants to support reducing taxes. Well, we'll give him a great opportunity to vote for reducing tax for 22 million Canadians. I know Canadians are going to be watching at home. We're going to be watching on this side of the aisle to make sure he does the right thing for Canadians.
Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
It was this Prime Minister that said that the metric that he should be judged by is the price of food at grocery stores. And prices are up, and so is food bank use. And we have been calling relentlessly for them to put a budget in front of this House. And in fact, Parliament has spoken and has said that this Prime Minister must put a budget forward this spring. So the Prime Minister hasn't delivered on his promise to lower food prices or deliver affordable food. Will he at least respect the will of Parliament, respect the majority of members in this House who have called on him to produce a budget so we can see that plan?
Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, we take note of the vote of Parliament, but in fact, the people in his riding and my folks from Shawinigan will be watching to make sure that the Conservatives are actually voting in line with their values, Mr. Speaker, because in the coming days, they will have this great opportunity. We're giving them a golden opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to show to Canadians that they care, that they want to reduce their taxes, that they want to help 22 million Canadians. We're all going to be watching if they're going to do the right thing. We certainly hope so, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton Southeast.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are getting crushed at the grocery store. Food inflation since the start of this year is out of control. Beef is up by 34%. Oranges are up by 26%, and the list goes on. 10 years of Liberal inflationary deficit have record number of Canadians going into food banks. Single mothers watering down milk for their kids. Canadians eating less nutritious food. Liberals now increasing spending by 8%, which they promised at 2%. Will they table a budget that will actually reduce inflation so Canadians can afford to feed their...
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, since 2015, we've seen a significant decrease, not only in child poverty, but in youth poverty, in seniors poverty. That means, Mr. Speaker, that the measures that we're putting into place to support Canadians, whether it's the Canada Child Benefit or dental care, Mr. Speaker, whether it's affordable child care across this country, Mr. Speaker, it's working for Canadian families. Of course we need to do more. Of course we need to stand up to the United States, and we'll do that, as my colleagues have outlined. But these Conservatives need to get on board and be part of the solution.
Honourable Member for Spadina Harbourfront.
Mr. Speaker, my waterfront riding of Spadina Harbourfront in downtown Toronto is proud to host many Canadian Armed Force members, from the Army to the Air Forces to the Navy. Every year, about 8,200 members are released from the Canadian Armed Forces, and roughly half of them are looking to start new careers. Can the Minister of Veterans Affairs share with us how the National Veterans Employment Strategy is supporting veterans who are seeking new career opportunities?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Veterans Affairs, it's an honour to answer my first question here in the House. Thank you to my honourable colleague for the question. The National Veterans Employment Strategy focuses on connecting veterans to good jobs, expanding access to skills training, and supporting entrepreneurship. It also recognizes veteran-ready employers and strengthens hiring in the public service. I'm proud to build more opportunities for our veterans.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, Donald Trump brought in 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum. This is a frontal attack on our economy and Canadian workers. I spoke this morning with 2 steel producers in my riding, and we can see that the effects of these tariffs will be devastating. $200 million will be lost in trade with the U.S. Hundreds of jobs are at stake. This Prime Minister during the campaign said that he would stand up to President Trump, but now the Liberal government isn't doing anything. What would this Prime Minister say to the constituents of Beauce who are very worried about this? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I fully understand and respect my colleague's point of view, and that's why I will be very pleased to work with him in order to help the Beauce businesses he mentioned. We are preparing funds to help these businesses. Let's work together. Together, let's stand up to the American government, which is bringing in these illegal, unjustified tariffs.
For Saanich, Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to ask the Prime Minister a question about nation-building projects, but then today Tina called our office, and she got my Chief of Staff on the phone and started explaining that she's a mom with disabilities, and she can't figure out how she's going to feed her children, and she started crying on the phone. And so here's a nation-building project question. Checks start going to Canadians with disabilities in July, but they're a lousy maxed out at $200 a month. How about a nation-building project to lift all Canadians with disabilities out of poverty?
Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the member opposite for having such compassion for the constituents in her riding, as we do all across the country. People who are living with disabilities have the right to be fully included in community. They have the right to live decent lives, just like the rest of us. That's why this government is proceeding with the Canada Disability Credit. That's why we are also working with provinces and territories, including most recently Ontario, to commit to ensuring that that money will not be clawed back from other benefits.
And that concludes today's question period. I'll give